All right, so you may have noticed we brought this model into Photoshop without changing its position or orientation, nor did we change the position or orientation of the mesh. We're going to be doing all of that positioning and orientation work using the camera. And that way, the entire scene and all its materials and all of the lights will move as one, and it'll make for a much more streamlined experience. So we've got to start things off in this exercise by establishing a kind of home camera angle that we will visit over and over again throughout this chapter. And we're also going to whittle down the lights, and I'll show you why that's necessary in just a moment. I've saved my progress as all materials accounted for.psd. It's found inside the 15 lighting folder. And you know what? I just want to mention something. I might have mentioned this before, but it bears re-mentioning if so. I'm going up to the window menu, and I'm going to choose the Open command, or press Control-O, Command-O on the Mac. But this is really specifically a Windows issue. It doesn't really happen on the Mac. You may end up finding yourself trying to open an image. Here I am looking at the contents of the 15 lighting folder, and I can't see a darn thing except this Roper Resources subfolder. And that's because Photoshop has the tendency here under Windows, after you get done importing a 3D file, then it decides that the only files of type that you'll ever want to open in the future are CIN, SBPX, DPX, and FIDO files. Well, and that's insane. Anyway, so what you do, because you can't find anything, right, is you click on this down pointing arrowhead and you choose all formats. And all of a sudden, then you can see all the standard file formats that are available to you. Just FYI. Anyway, I'm going to cancel out of there. And what I'm going to do, I've got my camera tool still selected here, and I'm going to back off of the scene just a little bit, and you'll find that you may, at certain points, either have your view of the scene blocked by the ceiling or the floor or one of the walls, and that's just something you're going to have to deal with over time. I'm going to go ahead and drag my view of the scene down a little bit. I might spin the scene as well, like so. Here are the values I ultimately came up with. Make sure that you're seeing the orientation values up here in the options bar. And I do want the X value to be -106. So I'm almost there. And I'm going to change the Y value to 0. And then I'm going to change the Z value, also very close, to -128. So we've got -106 for X, 0 for Y, and -128 for Z. These, of course, are the orientation values. Now let's go ahead and switch over to that Pan the 3D camera tool so that we can see our position values. And I'm going to change the X value to -144. The Y value, quite different than what I have. I'm going to change it to -38. And then I'm going to change the Z value to 74. So again, -144 for X, -38 for Y, and 74 for Z. And this is going to be our home position. We can only see one of the windows. We can't see the other one. That's okay. We're going to actually be able to see the other one pretty soon, thanks to the power of reflectivity inside of Photoshop. But for now, what I'd like you to do is go up to the options bar, click on the little floppy disk icon, our method for saving everything, don't you know? Constantly using the floppy disks. And I'm going to go ahead and call this camera angle home position and click OK. And now we'll be able to come back to it any old time we like. All right, now let's check out what's going on with the lighting in the scene. It's not good, of course, it's very flat lighting. And if I double click on the thumbnail for this hotel room layer to bring up the 3D panel, and then I'll go ahead and click on lights so we can see that there are 2 infinite lights. And I want to get a sense of where they are. So I'll drop down to this little toggle MISC 3D extras icon. I just love reading these little tooltips. And I'll click on it and I'll choose 3D light so that we can see the 3D lights in this scene. And I'll go ahead and click on my light tool as well, and I can't see a darn thing. And that's because the lights are way out there. So we're going to have to grab the camera tool again. And I'm going to grab that Walk with the 3D camera tool from the options bar. And I'm going to go ahead and drag down in order to zoom away from the scene effectively. And there's one of the lights. Let's go ahead and click on Infinite Light 1. I have my selections visible, so I'm seeing that it is the selected one. I'll click on Infinite Light 2, and it's coming upward from down below. They're both trying to go through solid surfaces. So Infinite Light 2 is trying to go through the floor. Infinite Light 1 is trying to go through the ceiling. Well, you know what? We don't need Infinite Light 2. And I'll tell you what, we don't need any Infinite Lights, really, because we're going to be using a point light for the lamp right there. And we're going to be using spotlights for each one of the ceiling can lights. So let's go ahead and get rid of Infinite Light 2 by clicking on the trash can. And the scene may dim down just a little bit. Now I'm going to leave Infinite Light 1 here because notice what happens if I were to turn it off. Then our entire scene goes black and we can't get any work done. So that's kind of a problem. So I'll go ahead and turn it back on. It doesn't make any sense that the light is coming in through the ceiling and somehow illuminating the scene, but I'll go ahead and rename this guy Illuminator because that's a function it's serving, at least when we're not ray tracing the scene. All right, so I'm going to scoot my scene over a little bit like so, using my 3D widget here. I've got the camera tool selected still, and now I'm going to click on the floppy disk icon again. And let's go ahead and name this guy Very Wide Angle. And what I'm going to tell you is when you're kind of working your way around through a scene trying to figure it out, that you should save almost every single camera placement you can because they don't take up any room and you never know when you're going to want to come back. And it's not always easy to get to certain places. Anyway, I'll go ahead and click OK so that that position is saved out. And then I'll go back up to the options bar, click on the view pop-up menu and choose home position to go back into the scene. Now, I want you to see something. I'm going to switch over to filter by whole scene so that I can see the scene and the materials and so forth. I'll click on scene at the top of the list and I'll change the quality setting from interactive to ray trace draft because I want you to notice something that happens when we ray trace a scene. We get a realistic depiction of the light source. So we have this massive shadow that's being cast into the bedroom because of the ceiling, because the ceiling is opaque. And then we're seeing just a little bit of the carpeting in the foreground, and that's it. So really, the light that we've created so far only serves a purpose when we're working in that interactive mode. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and click to interrupt the ray trace, click on scene again to make it active, and change quality back to interactive painting. And so we're going to keep this light around, this illuminator, just so long as we need it to get a sense of what's going on in the scene. And then once we've created some real light sources, we'll turn it off. All right, so base camera angle established, base light source established. In the next exercise, we're going to turn on the light bulb inside of the lamp using a point light.